Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Stefan, and in this video I want to show you something very exciting. The new 2025-2026 ABRSM piano exam books are here. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and if you like what you see, give this video a thumbs up. Also, I offer online piano lessons if you're looking for one. There's going to be information below. So this time, every 2 years, the first week of June is very exciting for me and for hundreds and thousands of piano teachers around the world who use ABRSM, because we see the new syllabus. We finally see the pieces that we're going to be listening to for the next 2 years or next 3 years. Quite a few things have changed. Some of them are very positive, some of them are not quite so much, but I want to talk to you about all of these details to help you make a decision whether this one is the best syllabus for you. As we know, there are lots of other exam boards like Trinity, RCM, LC something, but I think ABRSM is probably the most popular. Not necessarily the best in every aspect, but the most popular. So that's why I am going to talk about this new syllabus today. So let's see, first of all, first look impressions. So obviously this one is 2025-2026. So the first time you can use these for an exam is January the 1st, 2025, and they are valid until the end of 2026. Now remember, there's an overlap period of 1 year, so you can actually use these in 2027 until December 31st for exams. So technically it's a 3-year syllabus, even though it says 2 years on it, because there is a 1 year overlap or grace period where you can use them. The first look, as you can see, they stuck with the kind of black illustration-like look, which, you know, is a bit more modern but less classical looking, I guess. But nevertheless, it was the same last year. Now, the person on it is a Chinese boy now. Last year it was a black girl, and before I think it was a white girl. So I feel like now they're going through all races just to make sure that inclusivity is there on the covers of the piano books. And I think that's very good, because it has to be representative of all the people who learn piano. It's only right that we don't only see white kids on the cover of these books. Now, I don't want to get into too political, but just wanted to mention what you see now, because obviously every year is different, and I think every instrument is also different. So it's quite a job for ABRSM to keep in mind how many times they used certain characters and to make sure that everybody is represented equally on it. So that's about the cover. And one other thing you can see is that ABRSM changed their logo. The previous logo was the red one with the crown on it, and now they went sans serif, which is absolutely awful. And I think they're following this trend that fashion brands were following, where they're going sans serif, and now you just see 5 letters, but you don't actually associate it with anything royal. But it's obviously the Associated Board of Royal Music Schools, or Royal Schools of Music, and I hope they're going to go back to it. It was just nicer. Now, apart from that, the back is blue, and you can see all the supplementary books and the available apps. That's about the look. Now, I've got here the full package, initial to grade 8, and also it comes with the teaching notes. It's a teacher's pack. What I want to talk about first is the repertoire differences. They extended the repertoire list, and now we've got 48 pieces for every single grade. You've got obviously divided that into 16 A pieces, 16 B pieces, and 16 C pieces. Now, here is the biggest change that I noticed in this syllabus, and I think many of you will be thrilled about this change, is that ABRSM is moving away from an all-classical exam. Before, we had quite a few jazz pieces, but I think that's as far as they could stray away from classical music. But now, listen to this, you've got classical, you've got jazz, you've got musical theatre, you've got Disney, you've got pop, and you've even got anime tunes in it. So you've got Lewis Capaldi, you've got Frozen, you've got Justin Timberlake, you've got Queen, you've got Disney like Moana and other things, Lion King, and you have lots of pop songs as well, and lots of jazz and bluesy pieces. So the syllabus is now a lot more rounded and it really caters for all genres. And I think this is really important because so many people who want to do exams are discouraged because they don't want to play solely classical music, even though their skills are just as good as another grade 5 student who plays classical music only, but you were kind of limited to the syllabus. And it doesn't mean that ABRSM standards are dropping or ABRSM is not a classical exam anymore. The core is still very classical, but you have a lot more options now. Now, as I said in my previous review, for the performance exam, there is a fourth own choice piece. So you have to choose one from list A, list B, and list C, and then there's an own choice which can be anything. And that usually was, pop or musical theatre, whatever you want it to be. But the ABC pieces had to be classical or jazz. And now you have in the B and in the C pieces, pop and Disney and musical theatre, so it doesn't have to be a performance exam. You can do your practical exam with the 3 pieces and pick any genre you want. So I really wanted to emphasize this because I think this is the biggest change to the syllabus, and it's a very good change, and I think many kids will be thrilled to be able to play Disney songs and a lot more pop songs that you hear. Current chart songs like Luis Capaldi's Someone You Love, and there are obviously the older ones like Queen, Elton John, and so on. So that's the most important thing about the repertoire. Now, regarding the classical repertoire, the books obviously have 9 pieces, and if I look through those 9 pieces, what I notice is that in the first 5 grades, or even first 6, I would say, there are not too many very well-known pieces. And I'm not saying this that every book should be filled with Furellis and Minuet in G and Moonlight Sonata and all of that, the things that we hear all the time. But it's nice to have a few well-known pieces because as pianists, we obviously get inspired by these pieces. We want to be better pianists to be able to play these pieces, whatever the grading is. So what I noticed is that obviously in order to put all these new things in, they had to take lots of things out, but the things that are staying in the books, especially on the classical side, are not very well-known pieces. And I think that's kind of a little drawback because they should include at least 2 or 3 in the 9 pieces that people would recognize and are kind of well known. So that's one of the kind of negatives that I could say about the classical side of the syllabus. And another thing I noticed is that the grading is a bit less obvious than it used to be. For example, the first piece in the grade 8 book is the Turkish March by Mozart. Now this piece is definitely not easy, but I would say it's definitely not grade 8 either. In many other exam board syllabi, they appear in grade 6, grade 5, grade 7 at most. And I think most teachers, when you look online on forums, they kind of agree it's grade 6 on the threshold to grade 7. But now it's in grade 8. So I think it's definitely an easier one in the book. And obviously you will always find easier and harder pieces in every grade. And that's because obviously there's no objective way of telling how difficult a piece is. And also they want to give a challenge to those students who are better than the average. But having said this, I did notice some other kind of discrepancies in the other grades where certain pieces that I knew were more difficult are in the easier now, and just a couple which were in the easier grades are in the harder grades now. So the kind of relative difficulty is changing a little bit. I don't know if the board who decides on the difficulty of the pieces has changed or if they are changing their standards of what's difficult and what not. Anyway, the scales haven't changed at all. They are the same, and also the sight reading and oral tests are the same too. So it's only the repertoire that changed. Now, my biggest complaint is the following. These books are getting more and more expensive. They are like between 10 to 16 pounds, and some of them are only 9 pages. 9 pages, which if you print out would cost you approximately 40 pence. And they charge you 10 pounds or 12 pounds for it. My problem with that is that obviously the exams are getting very, very expensive as well. I think some of the grade 8s are 160, 180 pounds now, so it's not a cheap thing to do. And the repertoire list, the full repertoire list, is actually very, very good, and it has a huge selection of very well-known pieces, less well-known pieces, and all genres. The problem is that every book contains only 9 pieces, 9 out of 48. I give you an example. Let's say that you pass grade 7, and as a present to yourself, you want to buy the grade 8 book because now I'm going to study grade 8. But you haven't picked your pieces yet. So you're buying the grade 8 book as, an encouragement or a reward for passing grade 7. And you look through the pieces, you listen to all of them, and you realize that you don't like any of the ones in the book, or maybe just one in the book, and your other pieces are from the syllabus, but the pieces which are not found in this book. So you have to end up buying another 3 books just to be able to play those pieces, and you might not even play anything from this book, or you play one piece from this book and you paid £16 for it. So to me that doesn't seem quite right. So why charge so much for the books if only less than a third, maybe a quarter of the pieces, less than a quarter even, I think it's even less than a quarter of the pieces that are actually in the book. So I think for that kind of money, they should have at least 50%, so 24 pieces in the book, or even 30 pieces in the book, 10 for each list, and have some supplementary options as an extended syllabus. But 9 pieces out of 48 is kind of a rip-off, and this is my biggest problem with the syllabus. As they're extending the number of pieces, they should also extend what's in the book, and don't sell a 9-page book for £10. That's just not right. So hopefully this will change in the future. I know it's kind of going into a very business-orientated direction where they're charging more and more for things and giving less and less. So to sum up this very long video, the best thing is that the syllabus is extended to 48 pieces. There are all kinds of genres now: pop, Disney, musical theatre, jazz, folk, and classical. Number 2 is that you can play any genre now on the practical exam, not just the performance exam. One negative about the syllabus is that they didn't pick the most well-known pieces, especially for the lower grades. And the biggest complaint is that they only have 9 pieces out of 48, so you're forced to buy more and more books, even though you already bought a very expensive book that doesn't even include scales and oral tests and sight reading. So you have to buy another 3 books for those. So by the time you buy all the books, the 4 core books, the supplementary books, and you pay for the exam, it's going to be like £200 at least, £300 for grade 8. So it's a very expensive game. It's really worth calculating how much it's going to cost overall, and obviously this doesn't even include the cost of tuition. So I hope this was helpful to you. As I said, I'm very happy with the way the syllabus changed. I told you about my complaints, and I hope you will be able to make a decision now, a better decision, a more informed decision, whether this syllabus is for you and whether ABRSM is for you and whether you'd like to go for these exams. If you have any more questions about it, leave them in the comments. I will start putting tutorials for the pieces, starting with initial, going up as far as we can. You can listen to all of these pieces on Spotify, Apple Music, so they made them available for streaming. So the purpose of my videos is not to actually perform the pieces. I will obviously perform them, but the purpose is to teach them, so it's going to be a full-length tutorial video. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more.